going to share a video today of doing a card with blending brushes. This was specifically for my Stamp Club ladies, and they will all get their cards or all have gotten their cards or made their cards like this. But I thought I'd share it with everyone today and show you this simple but effective project. So I'm going to turn the camera down to my desktop and we'll get started. All right, so this is the card we're making. And so we've got this frame here that we're going to make with the blending brushes, and I'll show you how that's done. So I started out with a piece of basic white cardstock, and it's cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I took my, what are these called? Stitch rectangle dies. And I took my one of the rectangles, let's see, this one here. This one is, the size is like 3 1/8 by 4 1/2. So what I did is I took it to my die cut machine and I cut out a frame with it. So that's where I got this piece. Okay, so that's where my starting point is. And I'm gonna take the frame, and it would be white if I just die cut it, but I've already used this one. I'm gonna reuse it. I'm going to attach it to another piece that's the same size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and just put some temporary adhesive on the back of the frame. Whatever you have. I have this, it's a Tombow one. I've had it for years. I don't even know if you can still get it or not, but whatever temporary adhesive you have will be fine. So you just don't want this to slip on you. So I'm putting this down and centering it as best I can. So next up, I'm going to take my blending brushes, and I am keeping one of pretty much every color, not every Stampin' Up! Color, but for instance, this is my yellow brush. I'm also going to be using my orange brush. I have a blue brush, a green brush, and etc. So you get the idea, but like, I don't want to have to worry about muddying this up and changing colors with my blending brushes, so that works for me. They come in a set of 3, and I think they're like $12, so they're not terribly expensive. I just wanted to show you, these are another set I have, and you can wash them. This is my blue brush and my green brush, and I put a little soap and water and washed it and let it dry overnight. It's not gonna come completely clean, but it will take off some of the excess ink. So, you know, just so you know, that's how it works. So I'm using So Saffron. So I'm going to start with that ink. And normally when you're using the blending brushes, I would tell you start off of your paper so that you don't get a stop and start point, kind of a blob on your paper. But for this one, I want to do the yellow just in the middle. So you are going to start in the middle on your paper, and you're just going to kind of swirl the yellow, and it can be as light as dark as you want. I want more yellow, so I'm going to go back to my ink pad, pull some more from that, and swirl the yellow until you get how the amount of color that you want. And this is going to come out different every time, but you know, that's kind of what the look I'm looking for. So I'm done with the So Saffron. Next, I'm going to pull in some pumpkin pie and pull with my orange brush that. Now for this one, I'm going to say start off of your paper and swirl in. So that's what we're going to do here. And that's why my frame got so orange before, is I'm going to start off on the frame and then swirl around. And I can see I already need to pull in some more color. I want that to be more intense, so I'm going to get more color. And you want to make sure that your ink pad is inked up with a re-inker pretty well before starting this, because you are pulling color literally off your ink pad. So I always recommend whenever you buy an ink pad, buy the re-inker to go with it, because you will need it. You will need to re-ink it. There's so much pigment that you get when you're stamping with these newer Stampin' Up! Pads that you're going to go through more ink. And it's frustrating if you go to stamp and your ink pad isn't well inked. So I always recommend purchasing that ink refill when you purchase the ink pad. Okay, so this is the look I'm going for. So I'm going to pull this off and take any of the excess temporary adhesive off. Now, I purposely cut this a little wider than I want for my project because I knew when I was swirling in the ink on the orange, I was going to pick up some ink on the edges, and I want that to be crisp white edges. And so I'm looking to do this piece overall to be 4 by 5 1/4. So I have some room to trim off the edges on each side. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my paper trimmer, trim off a little on this side, turn it around, trim a little off this side, try to keep it evened up, and eventually end up with a 4-inch on each of those sides. That looks good to me. And I'm going to do the same here. I want to bring this down to 5 1/4. So I have some room to make these edges nice, crisp, and white. So let's bring it up to 5 1/4. I'm going to do it a little bit gradually just to make sure I don't slice off too much. Okay, I have more room to slice. Okay, so there. Now I've got nice crisp white edges. It's pretty much centered. The frame is centered in the middle. And I can go on to my next part of the card. And I'm going to be using the Enjoy the Moment stamp set. So I'm going to pull out several of the stamps. And what I like to do is start with the largest one first. So that would be this one. So I'm going to grab some clear blocks. So this size will work best on clear block H. So I'm going to just load that on. It's got a it's sticky on the label part, so it stays nice on my clear block. And for a bigger stamp like this, I actually lay my stamp on my work surface and take my ink pad to it. That way you can see that it's getting inked up and you just get a better inked image. So I'm going to take that and stamp that down on the left part of my frame, and purposely going outside of the frame. I just like the look of that. So next up, I'm going to take the next biggest stamp, and this one's going to do best on block D. So I'll load that on block D. Again, this one I'm going to take to my work surface and ink it up. And I'm going to put that down here. And then I'm going to take, what are these, thistles? I'm not sure what these are. I think the stamp set has some interesting built-in texture to the stamps, which I find appealing. So I'm going to load that on. Whoops. If you've been with me a while, you've heard me say before, when you're producing a card or artwork, it looks best when you do things in odd numbers versus even numbers. And what I mean by that is, so right now I have 3 stamped images. I'm going to add a 4th down here, and it's just this pod down here. That gives me 4 stamped images. I'm going to add a 5th, and my 5th is going to be the greeting. So there are greetings in this stamp set as well, and I'm going to use the happy birthday one. And let's see, this one's going to fit best on block G. That's this long, narrow one. So I'll put that on there. And then I'm just going to stamp the happy birthday in kind of this blank area. And that gives me my 5 images. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I find that's just kind of a rule in art. Not that there's a lot of rules in art. I think art is kind of about rule breaking, which is appealing. But anyways, that tends to be pleasing to the eye. So then I'm just going to take a piece of basic white cardstock, and this is cut at 5.5 by 8.5, and then you fold it in half. So then your card front is 4.25 by 5.5. So I'm going to take, this is a bone folder, and just to get a crisp edge here, I'm going to just take it in what we call burr machine edges. Okay, and then I'm simply going to adhere this down, trying to center. I got a little extra something here. And as my friend Denise pointed out, I always say when you make a boo-boo, it's always an opportunity for embellishment. There's always ways you can fix it. So this is my Stampin' Seal. I'm going to take this, and it looks like it got a little caught here. Take and put some adhesive on and just lay this down on the Whisper White base. Framing it in the middle as best I can. And there is the finished card. So pretty simple, but pretty nice. And you see that yellow and then coming into the bolder orange. I just really like the look of that. So that's the card for the day. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll join me again soon. Bye-bye.